Hello, everyone. Welcome to Stream Queens Con 4, Day 2, to the first panel, the trans panel, moderated by me, myself, and I, Throna Shade, along with our wonderful guests. Today, we are going to be talking about a variety of things on trans issues, societal climates, and political climates, as well as just like personal milestones and whatever else happens in the life of trans people. So we're going to start with introductions, and I believe we'll start with Laura up to my top left.
Hi, I'm Shlora. I'm a trans content creator. That's it.
Okay, and then next we have Alexis Latori.
Hi, my name's Alexis. I also have a Demon Fairy VTuber model that goes by Lexi on my channel. I'm a transgender, non-binary, bearded lady. I do a lot of stuff on Twitch, and I've been lately exploring Live 2D as another medium to do drag. This model is brand spanking new. So happy to bring it here today.
Thank you. And next we have Samson.
Hi, everybody. I'm Samson. My pronouns are he, him. I identify as queer, and I am a trans man. I've been transitioning for over 10 years now, almost 11 years, and I'm an artist.
Oh, okay. And last but not least, we have Pearl Tees.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pearl Tees. I work in mental health by day. I'm a showgirl some nights, and I am a gamer / streamer, all moments in between. I think I've lost count when I started my medical transition, but yeah. Well, I'm one of us.
All right, thank you, everyone. Super appreciate it. So we're gonna just dive right in, and my first question for all of you is, what does it mean for you to be on this panel, to share your voice with the world, people tuning in? You did say yes, so let's find out why. We'll start with Shalora.
Oh my god. Did this to me twice. To me, it just because like when I was growing up, like I didn't understand or even know like what trans meant until I think I was like 22. So I think just having more of us as visible as possible and talking and learning and being present kind of helps in any shape or form. That's what it means to me, just to contribute to the visual, like the you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. Like to put out the exposure,
Yeah.
to sneak out from under the rock and be like, hey, we're here.
Yeah, and education and all that. Yeah.
Exactly. And yourself, Alexis?
I would have to say I am really happy to be here to remind people and represent that being trans is a spectrum. It looks very different for a lot of different people, whether you're medically transitioning or not, whether you're non-binary, binary, genderqueer, whatever it is. I fucking love the trans umbrella. And so I'm so happy to be here and to be part of that weird, awesome spectrum that we are. Oh, Throna, your mic's out.
She went and passed away.
How about now?
There
we go.
Yeah.
You did. Okay. And Samson, for yourself, what's it like for you to be here, and what does it mean for you to be here on this panel today?
Well, I just think that it's great to hear everybody's voices and experiences and also spread a little bit of trans joy, trans positivity. And it's nice to see that people can be trans and also be happy and successful and see some real life examples instead of just the negativity that we can see online.
Oh my goodness, yes, 100%. And yourself, Pearl Tees?
For me, I think being on this panel means like hope for future generations of trans people to come. If people are willing to listen and understand and like want us to be here and have things like this, it shows that people are like willing to listen to us and willing to like that are interested in who we are as people. And I think that that is something that could inspire positive change for the lives of future trans people at a time that maybe we didn't have.
Very good. And so, just to touch back on, so this is our fourth Stream Queens Con, and we've managed to hold the trans panel at each Stream Queens Con. So this is the fourth one, and we seem to bring up lots of different topics and stuff. And I find even just in this last year, trans people have really been at the forefront of discussion for politics and just social media, and we're plastered all over the news, the Twitter, Instagram. Everybody has something to say about us, and so anybody can jump in on this. But what do you do to actively prepare yourself every day for this trans media that we consume every day and that we look out for? And how do you choose to engage with it, or do you choose not to engage with it because of your mental health? And like, I just want to get everybody's approach on the general media and the political climate of today for trans people. Hope and Flora.
We all said we
I'll,
want to avoid this.
I think for me, there's always, like you said, there's always something as soon as you open your phone. I feel like, at least for me, I think I have to check with myself first to see if it's something that like I'm mentally prepared to like even like acknowledge, because some days I just have to be like, listen, okay, maybe we need to turn off the socials today. And then if I am willing to engage, it's I think I'm at the point in my life where like I'm only willing to engage with people who are willing to like listen. I'm not gonna waste my breath on someone who has like no desire to like see us as people.
Right.
So the way that I think I engage in it is I talk to my community about it. I bring it to like my own community and have those conversations there. And to me, that can be very healing, because my community like just feeds me the positive energy I need to like deal with like some of the hateful things that we have to read online about us every day.
I
Exactly.
definitely agree. That's a big one.
Yeah,
Just being
and like,
in the LGBT community and like going to events that are so positive, it's very healing.
Yes.
100%. And so like, so things from like, for example, just to maybe give you guys like a foothold here, like I feel like the Harry Potter game that came out this year was quite taxing on trans people just because of how much media coverage it got. Florida, for example, has a lot of media coverage because of I think it was DeSantis and the anti-trans laws. Like, it's like the hub of it all. Like, and for me myself personally, like I don't even live in Florida. I live in Canada, and for whatever reason, I'm obsessed with knowing what's going on over there, and I find it deteriorating to me because I'm like, well, when's it going to come over here? Like, I'm scared. And just those political, like, even just wasn't it just recently the LGBTQ community or like the movement was just recently banned in Russia, and it's like, I don't live in Russia, but I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
opinions do fester. Like, we have a province here in Canada, in Alberta, where the premier in Alberta was like, I love what Florida is doing. We should bring it over here and have like open borders with Florida, right? So with the openness of the internet, the anti-trans rhetoric spreads quickly. So go ahead.
I do feel fortunate in Canada right now because news has been banned off of Facebook for us. And I don't know about y'all, but I am loving that. It is nice to not have my feed on Facebook filled with all of these negative news stories from around the world. Although it is good to know, obviously, what's going on and know that the political climate is changing. I know where I'm not going to be traveling to in the future, but it is nice not having that in my face all the time.
Facebook feels like a blast from the past for me. I don't think I've used that since 2017. So I am with you, Pearl, on turning off the social media. I
Yes.
have had my notifications off for about that long as well, because I feel like you're describing, Pearl, like you kind of have to prepare yourself or be intentional about opening your social media. And personally, I found that so hard to do when your phone's constantly like, this person liked your photo. Oh, did you want to see this transphobic article? Oh my God, this comment. And I'm like, I don't need this, unconsensual like moment on my screen when I'm just trying to talk to, text my friend or something. So I highly recommend turning off your notifications and then like making a point to engage with social media when it's appropriate for you, you know? But
That
God,
self check-in is so important.
I would love to see the news get off Facebook a little bit. That sounds like a dream, Samson. I also find it hard to engage with social media this year because of everything going on. But my day job, until recently, I was working in a large media company that owned about 13 different brands, one of which was publishing a lot of transphobic rhetoric around the time it was happening in February, March. So me and the queer employee research resource group had to kind of get together a little bit and have a talk with that editor in chief, which was just, as you can imagine, uncomfortable, exhausting. So to try to do that on top of social media this year, I've just been burning the candle at both ends, I guess. Take a break.
Yeah. What about you, Trelora? Do you have any input on the social media of
I was gonna say
trans
that
folks?
like between like the news and obviously there's like other things going on in the world, kind of makes you think like I really can't complain right now, uh, but I don't know. It's really hard because we have all of this really strong, hateful stuff going on, and then we go to our groups where we feel safe, and then we even have infighting. Not just people who belong to like groups like LGB, which is like just LGB and like nothing else.
Oh
and
my
you're
God,
like,
don't
what
even
is
get me
going on?
started.
Oh,
Like on top of that, there's trans people fighting trans people all the time, and
Yeah.
all this stuff. So it's just your group of safe places to be becomes so small, and it can be really tiring. It can be really exhausting because like you absorb this information and then you have like almost virtually no one to talk to about it.
absolutely. Like I remember seeing not too long ago, I think it's The Cut. I think it's The Cut, where they had like right-wing trans folk versus left-wing trans folk. And it was just like, ugh, the last thing we need to do is be fighting each other right now. Can we not? Can we just not?
Yeah. It's like very
Wow,
much
Pearl,
lamb for the slaughter.
that's the one. How did you know?
Ugh.
But that's an interesting topic 100% because I've been following a lot of the LGB without the T. There's like accounts that have been created on
Oh my
Twitter and stuff.
God. Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I go in and I obsessively just look to see what they're posting and what they're talking about, just to keep myself informed on why people are hating me and why people are deciding to um uh ostracize trans
Yeah.
people, right? And
Well,
it breaks my heart.
I think it comes from it comes from fear. I think it comes from fear of like their people that are cis folks' fear of their rights being taken away as queer people because of trans people. I think that's what it stems from, and I think that's really ridiculous, especially since trans people have like paved the way for them to have the rights that they do have. So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
help me get my bag, but girl, when it comes to helping y'all, girl, y'all could be dust after that.
Yeah.
And we're gonna deny that you did any of it also. Oh, girl, don't get me started.
So I'm glad that we broached that topic, and it's got the wheels turning. Just for the sake of a lighter note, I would love to talk about the gift, and don't you feel free not to share this your government name, but talk about the backstage of the gift of choosing your own name when you've come out, and when the opportunity to reinvent yourself from and break that mold of the societal standards that you were previously filling. Anybody? I can start if you guys
Go
want.
ahead. Go ahead.
So for me, I personally chose my name was very gender neutral in a way. Like it could, it was like in short form. It didn't matter. It could be girl or boy, but it never made me feel uneasy about myself, and it never made me feel not like myself. And so I did the flip of like my old name, just changed the last few letters, and now it's feminine. And for me, it's interesting because I've had people be like, "Oh, thank you for doing that," because now it's easier for us. And it's like, I don't know. This was for me, not for you, but okay. But there's something nice about being able to reinvent yourself in that process and to get to have a choice. Like it is quite literally one of the first choices that you get to make in your life of that transitionary period. And I think it's just like a wonderful opportunity to have. So how do you feel about that?
I just changed my name this year.
Oh,
It's
congratulations.
thank you. It is actually a very easy process, at least as far as it was for me. Surprisingly, it like seemed scary at first, but it was nice. And the judge was like, "Hooray!" You know, like they're like
Oh,
very
I love
excited.
that.
I don't know if other judges are not excited, but they were like, "Take pictures with us," you know, like so it was cute. But I think it's really powerful. You get to really um, decide for yourself like what a name might mean for you, if it means anything at all, and if you need it, you know, you can kind of disown yourself or remove yourself from maybe a family name that is hurtful for you, like your last name. You can change that. For me, my middle name used to be like a religious middle name. So I was like, well, I don't need that, you know, when it's masculine. So I just, to keep the same initials, I just changed the name to my grandmother's name who passed. Um, and even though she never knew that I was like queer or trans or anything, I'm just like, I'm just gonna pretend that she would have
Yeah, that's
you know,
cute.
been fine with it or whatever. Like, because I loved her and she was like my second mom. So I was like, well, I'll just keep it that way for me. But I think it's important to be able to give yourself that official rebirth sort of thing.
Hmm.
I love to hear that it's a lot easier now to get that done. When I got it done, it was a little bit difficult. It wasn't as hard as I know some people prior, obviously. Um, but I remember trying to get like the fee waiver because it's expensive. Um, and you had to go to court to try to get the fee waiver. And the judge told me, and I've talked about this on my stream before. The judge told me that because it's a choice, they're not going to give me a fee waiver. So it just wasn't as nice. The people were not as nice before, but um after that, the judge who actually gave me or granted me the name change was so sweet and so encouraging and just like it was an emotional day. But I got my name. My name I was initially named after my father, who was not very supportive and like towards anything LGBT. And um, I don't want to get too deep into that because I don't want to trigger anybody. But but my mother was always supportive. My mother was always supportive, and I wanted to keep the first letter of my name was always an A, and I was like, I want to keep that. And my mother's name was Maria. And I was like, you know, if I was going to be named after anyone, it should have been my mother. So I changed my first name to Aria. It's just my mom's name, but without the M.
Cute.
And I got to I took her last name also, completely got rid of the parts of my family that were not supportive, which was so freeing, so liberating. Should we popcorn this?
Keep delegating.
Lexi or Samson, you guys have any takes on that?
Well, I am very hungry. I'll take that popcorn. I I have been thinking about this while y'all have been talking, and I realize my given name and my current government name is very gender fluid. So it works as both, the same as you kind of thrown as like it works as both masculine and femme. So it's never made me feel um dysphoric or like weird about it. It's actually kind of felt always perfect. But more recently, as I've been exploring VTubing online, and here's the big reveal, I've decided to change my name to Lexi, which like Dola's been referring to me as hold while it loads. And I found that to be strangely like euphoric, is that playing this character has allowed me to uh kind of like explore a name that I rather find nice, like what you were talking about. Like I've kind of reinvented myself in a way to reclaim something or just start something that's totally different and not tied to these roles that I was always forced into as a child. So that's been like really wonderful.
I love that. And Samson?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that I reinvented myself. I feel like it was more so like a quest for finding greater authenticity for myself. And it was kind of interesting navigating like all the different paths towards like what kind of man I wanted to be. And there's a lot of different like stereotypes out there and expectations that are put on men and different like gender roles that are assigned. So kind of it wasn't necessarily something I had ever thought about prior to transitioning. But I was just kind of myself. Like I just sort of lived life as I was, and I just didn't really think about like gender roles or presenting a certain way or what it would mean. And then when I started transitioning, I it kind of opened up these different worlds to me, and I started exploring like, who did I want to be? Like what made me feel like I was being authentic to myself, and what was something that it was just society was putting on me or telling me I had to act a certain way or do certain things. And some of it was like big broad societal expectations, but some of it was even things like, for example, when I started transitioning, my aunt, when I was female, I remember my aunt told me that if I were big goth combat boots, I would never get a boyfriend. And I was like, thanks, I guess. I'm gonna wear them anyway. And then when I started transitioning, all of a sudden, my aunt was telling me, well, I have to open the door for women. It doesn't matter if she's like 5 feet ahead of me. I have to run to that door and open the door for her because that's what men do. So it was just interesting to see how the expectations of
Mhm.
people flipped. And I found that I had to sort of navigate that and figure out, well, what am I supposed to be doing now? Like, can I wear combat boots or do I have to open the door? Or can I do neither? So there's a lot to learn to try and figure out what was like who I was gonna be.
And so I just want to say I love that you brought up like expectation stereotypes and like conformity, because that is exactly the topic I wanted to bring up next. Because ironically enough, I went out last night, and for the first time, so I've been in my transition for like four and a half years now, and for the first time yesterday, a girl came up to me and asked me for a tampon, and I was just like I was I don't know, no, I don't have one. And I remember seeing a story somewhere of a trans person carrying tampons with them, in
That's me.
to go into the like to the women's washroom, etc., to for those exact scenarios. And so when it comes to like gender conformity, like are women expected to carry that kind of stuff around, or are trans women expected to sit down when they go to the washroom, or are trans men, like you said, expected to hold the door open for other people, or just those interesting conformity aspects. And I find a lot of people who begin their transition forcibly try to fit every
Yes.
single pin into that conformity, and then it just exhausts them. Like I definitely experienced that where I was like, I need to do this. I need to make sure that my face is clean shaven. I need to make sure that I wear makeup every single day. I need to make sure that I dress the way that everybody wants to see me and I see myself. And it became exhausted. Now I'm just like sweatpants and like t-shirts and like I'm going to go to the grocery store. Don't even look at me. I'm just here for my chips and whatever. And so I would love to hear what everyone's take is on like general gender conformity, and how you feel about certain aspects or traits of it. What is acceptable, what isn't, and floor is yours.
Well, I think the glamorization of gender conformity within the trans community can be very toxic. Um, I think it obviously stems from trans people wanting to be safe, um, but it's definitely created like this discourse or idea that trans people need to be cis blending, and that they need to get like these surgeries and they need to be on hormones and stuff. And there is no correct way to be trans. There's no correct way to be a man or woman or non-binary GNC person, you know. But being trans doesn't need to, you know, being trans just means you're not a cis person. And now we have individuals, even within our own community, that are like that are challenging whether GNC people are in the trans umbrella. And I think that that is just so dangerous. It gives me very much like the LGB trying to take out the T, you know. I think if you're a binary trans person like I am, I think that's completely fine and valid. But I think it's harmful and dangerous to look at conforming to the binary as a requirement to be a trans person.
And I've honestly found that to be one of my biggest struggles, trying to connect with other trans people. Is from a lot of binary trans people, I get this expectation that my femininity needs to look and feel a certain way, especially as it relates to my facial hair. And we were just talking about this on the non-binary panel yesterday. Like, I just don't get it, Pearl. It's more fun to invite everyone to the table. Like, there's so many different experiences. There's so many, we can all really learn from each other too, whether you're taking hormones, going to have this, that, or the other surgery or not. I just feel like we're all stronger together. And yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling here. Someone else take over. But I'm definitely on the side of like, there's no correct way to be trans. That kind of gatekeeping is what prevented me from starting HRT for a long time, because I was really afraid, like, oh, if I start to take estrogen, do I have to like go all the way? And like, is it gonna make me go all the way to a binary place? Because that's not where I want to go. And I was very, very relieved talking with my doctor, like that's not the case. You can choose your own journey. And I think that that's really hard, whether you're seeking a binary ideal or a non-binary ideal. So like we definitely need our siblings to lean on in those hard times.
Yeah, and Laura, you were saying that you bring, you know, feminine hygiene products along with you, and I feel like that is almost kind of an expectation for a lot of cis women to have. And I remember that story that I mentioned. There was a lot of backlash where it was like on Twitter and the news or something, where people blew up about the idea that a trans woman was carrying feminine hygiene products, and they were like, "For what? You don't even use them, so why would you even bother?" And it was more for other people surrounding them to be friendly, I guess, or to be available to other people in need. And so when it comes to conformity, I wouldn't say that's like a conformity thing, but like the expectation is something that you're comfortable with, right? So that if somebody does come and ask you for it, you're on the ball, right? And so feel
For
free to
me,
tell me how you feel about that.
For me, it's not necessarily like a conformity thing or like a performance. It's more of, you know, solidarity with cis women or people who menstruate. Like what, like anyone could in today's, especially in today's day and age, anyone could need a tampon.
Right.
So I keep one on me just in case. If someone needs it, they need it. I have an extra one at home. I'll pick it up and put it in my purse, and then we're good to go. What people need them for is not really my business. It's just if they need it, I want to be there for them. I think it's, I don't know. Nobody has to do any of this stuff or whatever, but like since starting transition, I felt a need to do better and do my research about, you know, women and women's rights and, you know, trans rights, of course, obviously too. But like, I feel like that's kind of part of being a woman, at least for me, is paying attention, being aware, and doing what I can to like move us forward, and be part of the community and stuff like that.
You know, I feel very inspired to add that to my checklist of purse items. We got our Narcan, we got our low blood
Yeah.
sugar items, and now we're gonna bring the tampons along as well.
And you never know; it could be useful for all sorts of stuff. You just never know.
Emergency situation, you could start a fire if you're lost in the woods.
So
Anyway.
you're not
Bring
wrong.
it on.
But Samson, you kind of brought us onto the topic. Did you have any other additives for like gender conformity in general?
Yeah, I would say it's kind of a mixed boat because on one hand, like I personally, like I guess I would consider myself to be cis blending, but I don't know, it's hard because I still have lived experience as a woman and I have lived experience as a trans person, which is different than being like a cis man. So I feel like, I don't know, I feel like when you're farther along in transition, you can reach a point where people don't really look at you and clock you as an LGBTQ person. So it can be hard to be in LGBTQ spaces. I find a lot of times people will look at me and they don't see me as like a safe person. So I have to go that extra mile to be like, you know, here's my trans bracelet, or I always have like a trans flag earring, and it's kind of just a subtle, like if I bump into another trans person, then I hope that they'll see that I'm a safe person, because you kind of lose that after a while, after, you know, years and years of being on HRT. Obviously I've achieved what I've what I wanted to achieve with it, but you kind of lose that sense of community a little bit when you're in an LGBTQ space. Someone just looks at me and thinks I'm a cis guy, and they're like, what is he doing here? So I don't know, it's you kind of win some and you lose some, I think.
Yeah, I really relate to that personally. Like going to clubs or going to like queer events and stuff like that, people have this like different look at you if you pass too well or if you blend in or anything like that. And you know, like I have a husband, so like people just think I'm just a straight person, or a cishet person. I am a straight person, but but you know, and so it kind of feels so exclusive when you used to be part of that space, and then when you're in like cishet groups, usually you're also not part of that space because you don't necessarily feel like you can share like your queerness with them the same way because they're not going to get it off the bat. Like
No.
you hang out with them and you're like, oh girl, and then you're like, wait, I can't, they don't get that. They're like, what do you mean girl?
Yeah, very
Yeah.
true for personal and romantic relationships, especially. Like I've had partners who identify as a lesbian. I've had partners who refuse to identify themselves. My current partner identifies himself as a gay, non-binary man. So it can be hard. How do you translate that to like a public space? Like if somebody sees us together, we just look like, you know, two gay men, but there's so much more to it than that.
So to
I
touch
mean,
on
I
that,
Oh, go ahead, Verona.
well, I was going to touch on that. So I've known about Samson for a while. I've never met them in person, but I'm friends with their partner from the city I used to live in, and I've known their partner for like 2013, so 10 years. And when they met Samson, I was like, oh yay, congrats, good for you. And I don't know how long you guys have been dating, but I will admit, I genuinely, because you say you're cis passing, I genuinely thought you were a cis man. And so when I started asking around, like, do you know anybody who's trans? And your name passed along, I was like, I asked for trans men, and I didn't say that out loud, but I was like, wait, I'm gonna vet this real quick and ask around. And I was like, oh my god, I had no clue. And I was like super excited about it and whatnot. But it also brings me to the idea that has anybody ever experienced like, oh, I just want you to know you pass really well, or some people passing that compliment of like, I just want you to know that you look really good for a trans person. And it's really not the compliment. Like
What?
sometimes it doesn't really feel like the
100%.
compliment that it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
was gonna say, is that a compliment?
it's not. It's not. I like, and I combat that with every time. Like, I think trans people are some of the most beautiful people on this planet. So, I, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I think we're a little bit more. There's a little bit more of a sparkle that we have. Um, I'm glad that you think I'm cis blending, but sweetie, that's not the goal.
It's that sparkle, right? I was just
Yeah.
at I was just out last night in a space that was 99.9% cis men. And uh, the 0.01% that I could see was trans had that sparkle. I agree with you. Like, I am very on the side of like, we don't need to be cis blending. We need to be our, even if we're binary, even if um we're non-binary, we just need to be our badass selves because we're truly beautiful. Being trans is like one of the most beautiful things in this world. I have to agree with you.
And I think that that sparkle you're talking about is just genuine authenticity that we don't see in a lot of people, like in general, with like the exposure that we have to media, and like the idea that people have to live a certain way and look a certain way and drive themselves to be um other than, whereas I find a lot of trans and non-binary folk are just authentic, and that I would say would probably be that sparkle, which draws people. It's like, oh, I want what they have, but what did they do to get that? Oh, I don't want that.
There's definitely a confidence too that I've noticed because a lot of trans people, we have been through some shit. And you can see that when someone is strong and they are centered and, they're just living their life and they have earned it. I think it really shines.
100%. And so we've got, I think, we still got 20 minutes. We got a lot of time to talk. So I wanted to bring up the idea. So I was talking at my workplace. I work my 9 to 5 job, and I was talking about how I'm going to be doing this panel today. And we were in the meeting room, and it was interesting because collectively everybody said we would like to know, like, I don't know if they're tuning in right now or not, but they said it would be an interesting conversation to understand the point of view. And I feel like maybe we can share that here from our own perspective, of the perspective of someone else, which would be the dating life / romantic partners that we decide to have in our lives. And so that goes as far as like, what is the impact? What kind of work do they need to do? How do they modify their life? And it's kind of unfortunate that we can't just date and just go out and just date like the rest of the world, because it doesn't exist for us, because there's a lot of barriers and borders that have to be overcome in order for it to make it work. Like, just for example, like in the dating life, I remember when I used to have the dating apps and stuff like that, people would be like, I don't know if I could do long term. Like, I'll do it for fun, but the long term part, because my family, I don't know what they think, and I don't know how I feel, my friends' perceptions, and I don't want to take on the what would be like going out in public and people looking at us funny. Like, I don't want to have that. You can have that by yourself. And so if you do have a partner, if you don't, I would love to hear your perspective in terms of like what kind of humps you had to get over, successes, whatever you've got to share on that topic.
That's wild. Do people really say that to you? I'd be like, sweetie, you're not for me then. Bye. Have a nice
Oh,
life.
100%. Like, it happens all the time.
What
Like,
the-
yeah,
I mean,
I would never date a trans person, but I would sleep around for sure. I
that's
don't want
wild.
all the baggage, is basically what they're
The
not.
audacity to say that to somebody,
Right.
honestly. I personally, when it comes to dating and romance lately, I've been much more leaning towards T for T. like looking for other trans, non-binary, especially gender non-conforming people to date. Um, I am having a moment of complete gratitude right now for my partner, Throna, with you sharing that because my partner is also trans masculine, non binary, agender. And so they've been a huge support to me in my transition, starting my transition, giving me space to come into my own trans identity and just understand the world a little bit better. Um, so I fully encourage trans people to consider dating other trans people because they will, they won't understand everything. Everybody's experience is different in life, especially under the trans spectrum, but they're already halfway there, And I found that to be a very safe, but also sometimes a hotbed of hurdles to come over as well. If it's somebody who's, kind of leaning towards what we've been talking about the last hour, gatekeeping trans identity through like binary expectations or gender role expectations, stuff like that, I would say those are still hurdles that I need to overcome sometimes dating other trans people. It's
Mhm.
true, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't know. Just gravitate towards the people that are on the same level as you, I guess, in terms of just love and acceptance for who you are.
Right. And does anybody else have a take on that?
I have so I'm also in a relationship with another trans person. My partner is a trans man, and I think there's something just so beautiful about T for T relationships. Um, I but I will say just like it, just thinking about like what you were saying as far as like dating someone who is not going to introduce you to like their personal life outside of, I guess, what is their romantic life. Sounds awful. It just reminds me of like men that are like DL that like want to sleep with you, and I'm like, sweetie, look at sweetie, you are the one that we need that needs to be the D. I don't want people to know. I don't want people to know I'm sleeping with you. I'm not the one that needs to. You're not the one that needs to be ashamed here, sweetie. It is me. So yeah, I just don't entertain that because I just don't. I just don't. And I hope that future trans people get there because I understand that like for me not being I didn't come to terms with my transition until like my mid to late 20s, and I think everything prior to that, like I just never felt like an attractive person. And I can understand like going into your transition and now like having access to a different dating pool where people do find you sexually attractive, and like you're maybe feeling your oats about it or whatever. But also like it takes a moment to I guess like ground yourself and like find um to know your worth around who you are. Yeah. But yeah, T for T is it, girl. But
Yes, and
anyway.
For myself, I would say for the people that are like DL or whatever, reverse the old proverb and preach before you practice.
Hello.
Because like why are you hanging clearly there's something that you want to do or that you're should be supportive of if that's what you want to be doing. Maybe you're hanging around the wrong people or you need to
Yeah.
do the groundwork with your friend groups first. That's not something that you should be putting on, you know, trans people or marginalized people in general. But anyway, I am in a unique, I guess, situation where I married someone before transitioning, and we're still together. But it's been a struggle because, like, we're going from, two men to, a man and a woman, and sort of the expectations or the desires from at least for yeah, it's a little patriarchal, okay, but like I do want him to open the door for me or stuff like that, you know. And so to go from like the previous expectation to like the new expectation can be challenging because like not for me but for him, you know. And like, you know, things are changing and or growing or, you know, whatever, and it creates a lot of insecurities because like you're used to them praising certain things that maybe you want to change, and then it's a huge array of problems that requires a lot of communication, um, and it's not going to work the first time for sure, but it's just being open, communicative, all that razzle dazzle.
Oh, I get it. I totally get it. Sometimes I'm like, why am I the one carrying all the groceries? You got 2 bags. I got 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My muscles have been destroyed by estrogen. Please help.
You got
Oh
the
my God, already.
testosterone.
I can't open jars anymore.
And what about yourself, Samson?
I don't know. I really resonate with like what you were saying about being in an existing relationship. I feel like if you're in a relationship and one party begins to transition, that is such an interesting situation to navigate. And when I was first starting my transition, I was dating a cis woman. We were technically lesbians, although I didn't really identify that way. And we had been together for quite a number of years. And I remember early on when I started to transition, I still was very much like non-binary in the middle, sort of appearing. And she was concerned because she thought that like we were just going to look like a straight couple. And that bothered her because
Mm.
she identified as a lesbian and she wanted to be in LGBTQ spaces. And for me, I was like, I'm never going to not be in LGBTQ spaces. If anything, I'm like more queer now. But it was definitely something that we had to navigate because she had different expectations of what the relationship would be like now that things were changing. Whereas for me, I was like, well, I still feel like me. Like it's just, I'm still myself. I'm just a little bit different now. So ultimately that relationship didn't work out, but it wasn't because of the transition. But it definitely played an interesting piece in how things evolved between us and like different challenges that were coming up that we had to navigate.
I'm really glad you shared that. It's made me feel some sort of comfort because I had a similar situation, but kind of the opposite way. Like 2 men dating each other. Then I was dating this guy for a really long time. And then when I started to transition, our relationship kind of fizzled out and ended a year later. And I'm looking back now wondering, like, not what went wrong, what did I do, but like just trying to process it all. And I'm noticing, like, I think the sheer lack of communication while that was going on between us ultimately probably is what led to the relationship not working out. So I piggyback on what Shalora and Samson were saying. Like, communication is really key if you're in that situation, because take it from someone who maybe was a little afraid to communicate because of what my partner might say or think about my body changing, etc. I think that definitely played a part in losing that person from my life. And that was really hard, but I wouldn't change my decision.
So, on that topic, would it be fair to say that it requires a lot of strength and patience from both parties, and that sometimes it's okay that that strength just isn't there; it's absent? Because it's funny that we're talking about this because I have a friend in my life who their partner is coming out as a trans man, and it's very taxing. It's different, and just like gauging from it. The transition is difficult for the transitioner because of all of the extreme changes. Like, so from what I understand, like if you go from estrogen to testosterone, the testosterone will make you more aggressive, more like erratic in a way, a lot more sexually active. And then if you go from testosterone to estrogen, you feel more emotional, you feel like, and even like your muscles start to like, I tried doing this exercise the other day, and I pulled 3 muscles in the process, and I could have done it before, but I didn't realize that I can't do it now, right? And so there's just those little things. It's accumulation of all those little things that add up, and it's like, are you, as the person who is trans, strong enough to support that relationship and do the transition um in tandem with your partner, as well as is your partner strong enough to do the exact same thing and be strong enough to go through those exact motions as well?
I think it puts you kind of expose yourself and you become extremely vulnerable, I feel like, personally anyway. um and some partners or some people are just not prepared for that. And that's understandable. But um relationships are work. They're always work forever and ever. Like, don't get comfortable in any relationship.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. Like, I think it's a true test of character to see if those kinds of people are even like good to keep around. I don't know. And I mean, like, the effects can be different for everyone. So, like, you never know if like the muscle degeneration is going to happen. You don't know if, all these other things are going to happen. It's all kind of a gamble depending on your chemical mix up of your body. So, you can prepare for everything, but expect the random.
Oh, the random.
Expect-
You wanted to the random. One day I asked my partner if he wanted dessert, and I started to cry because I thought about how we did not deserve dessert because dessert is so good to us.
Yeah.
And I was bawling my eyes out, and I couldn't figure out why. It was like the randomest feeling I've ever had in my entire life.
Relatable as fuck.
Crying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, seriously expect the unexpected, right? Like I feel like the same thing happened to me, and then a year into my transition I started to take testosterone again as well. So kind of like went one way, went back the other way. My body was like, what are you doing? But now it's kind of in a better place for me.
Amazing. And so to wrap up the conversation about like what implications you have with partners and whatnot, I'll share a little bit of insight into my own personal experience. And I wanted to really highlight that time, patience, and acceptance is very key in I believe having a successful relationship, especially as a trans person. So in my relationship, for example, there was a lot of like what ifs and um I don't knows. And it's like I, I found somebody who was willing to put in the work, but it's the work that was daunting, right? And so we took the time. I didn't meet the family right away. There was a lot of like skepticism and whatnot. But instead of jumping ship right away because of how stressful it might be, um, we waited it through, and we approached it at like 10 miles an hour instead of 100 miles an hour, and it really worked out. And I find that sometimes what there's a lot of benefit of the doubt that needs to happen, I find personally myself, for a lot of people who are newer to the experience as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's good to give people a benefit of the doubt. I think that especially in early transition, like we do have to be selfish. Like we're going through something that is extremely challenging, extremely personal, and it's not something that we often find a lot of support for from other people. But you also have to allow the other people in your life to have some grace because it's a change for them as well. And a lot of times, like our partners or our friends or our family will also kind of go through their own mourning because they no longer have this person in their life that they thought they had. I find sometimes people don't really see that you're the same person on the inside. You're just changing a little bit. So it is good to have a bit of grace and patience and understanding for partners or family or friends who are trying to follow along, but maybe just need that bit of extra time.
100%. So we have about 7 minutes left in our time, I believe. Is that right, Dola? Okay, perfect. So I have two questions I want to ask. We have a question in the chat, on the Stream Queen chat. You can answer this question, or you can answer my question, whichever you want. So in the chat, somebody asked, did any of y'all have a mentor or supportive role model during the beginning of your transition? And how did you feel it helped you out? So if you want to answer that question, feel free as a closing statement. If you wanted to as well, I have a question where we're not just trans people. We're people, and we have things that exist outside of our realm of just being trans. So if you wanted to end off with sharing what is your biggest life accomplishment or milestone that doesn't involve with you being trans, feel free to do that as well.
I have an
Decisions,
accomplishment
decisions.
that has to do with being trans. I'll throw that in.
Okay, okay.
So last year, I was part of a committee who unveiled a plaque dedicated to a trans woman. Her name was Diana Boileau, and this took place in Fort Frances, Ontario. And Diana was one of the first people in Canada who began her medical transition. And so it was really cool to be part of the ceremony to honor a trans person from the past. Like this was in the 1960s. And like it's in the town, like it's a physical thing that's there. You can go visit it and read the plaque. And I just thought that was so cool to have this physical part of history here to say that trans people have always been there. So it was really fun.
Amazing. We love that.
I think I don't know if I had like an actual like a mentor per se, but one of my best friends who we've known each other for I'll say over a decade. We met each other in college, and they're also a trans woman, and we met prior to either of us transitioning, and she started her medical transition a few years before I did. So if I had questions or anything, like I had her to go to, and she had already by this time she had already had like a foundation of like trans sisters around her that if she couldn't answer them, there were other girls who could relate that could help me. So I guess you could say I found like a community of trans women here. It's a little easier here in San Francisco to find that though.
Right.
I miss San Fran. Oh, go ahead, Chilera.
Oh,
Sorry.
you go ahead.
Oh, fine. I miss San Francisco so much, Pearl, for that reason. I was there for 8 years. I'm actually coming to visit next week.
Oh my God.
But I think just being around all the amazing trans, queer, gender nonconforming drag performers, nightlife artists, producers, like just the amazing people, that community in San Francisco really helped support me and just even realizing the possibilities within myself. Period. I'll popcorn to you, Chilera.
Thank you so much. How did you know I had something to say? Way back when, this is like 2 or so years ago, we kind of started gathering like all the, I don't know if you were in Stream Queens at the time, Lexi, but we made like a little group for all the trans and non-binary folks inside of Stream Queens. And we would meet every Tuesday for Trans Talk Tuesdays. And we would talk about like, what is this like? Or if we had any questions for each other or in general, we could all kind of round table it. And we used to do that every week. And that was like a really helpful step for starting my transition. Just being able to understand and like, you know, share resources and experiences and things like that. We don't do that anymore. It's been a long time. And honestly, these days I feel a little outcast, I guess. It's weird. I have trouble making trans friends.
I'm your trans friend.
You are?
Of course. We've met each other in person even.
We did?
Yes.
We're the same person, Throna. I don't know what you mean.
We're hanging out the next time you come here.
Oh, okay.
And all right, so with that, we have 1 minute for closing statements. Thank you everyone for tuning into this trans panel today. I hope you found it informative, educational, relatable even. And my name is Throna Shade. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you guys want to do your closing statements, you're welcome to.
My name is Tharunish. No. My name is Caricature. No. My name is Laura, trans content creator. If you come by my channel, sometimes I'm doing a character, a role play character. So don't expect me all the time.
My name's Lexi, or Alexis Atari in drag. You can check me out on my Twitch channel every Tuesday making stickers, every Wednesday doing live 2D, and every Thursday playing games. Also, to share quickly, one of my biggest accomplishments, not related to being trans, is I make and sell paper lashes to people all over the world. And it's a great way for
Oh.
me to stay connected with a wide network of drag artists. And it makes my little heart happy. I'll popcorn to Pearl.
Well, my name is Pearl Tees. I stream Friday through Tuesday in my stream channel, my little jewelry box, from 5 p.m. PST to about 9 p.m. PST. What's going to happen? I never know. I leave that up to my chat most of the time. I like to say I'm variety, but they might say otherwise. But we won't go there. I'll popcorn it on over to Samson.
And I'm Samson. I'm not a content creator, but if anybody wants to go see my art, it's samsonbush.com. There is
Oh my
some
God,
queer
that's
art on there, of course.
Somebody put that in chat for Samson, so everybody can go check that art out. I was definitely curious. You said art, that you were an artist. I was like, oh, I'm so curious now. I wonder what kind of art.
Yeah, lots of different kinds. I do painting, digital art, so lots of fun stuff, lots of rainbow stuff over on my
And-
website,
What was the website again?
samsonbush.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Jenny. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into the Stream Queens Con 4 trans panel, the fourth one of its kind. I'm Throna Shade, and thank you to all of our wonderful people who joined us today.
Bye.